to show you something and, well, explain to you something that happened to me when I was a child, about 12 years old, and I used to travel around the English countryside on a little Royal Enfield motorcycle, and a buddy and me, and we used to go look around for sites, castle sites, etc. And because where we lived in England, in southern England, where there was patches of trees, you knew that there was castles in there or abandoned mansions, etc. And so what we would do is always just go into all these forests like that. So anyway, here we are. We bicycled out here maybe 5 miles, and we came up this way. And up here is a glider airfield, private, and fairly big. It's a huge field. And over here is an abandoned airfield from World War II or whatever, the Blitz, and that's kind of fun to go into. And we always figured that's haunted or something because it had been bombed a few times and all this kind of stuff, and figured, yeah, it's got to be haunted. So anyway, we're in here and we're just looking for something to do, and we see all these piles of gravel. And they're all different kinds of gravels and stuff like this, huge piles. And so we park our bikes down here in the forest, and we come around here and we go looking around the place and say, wow, this is kind of neat, and it's like a Sunday and nobody there. And so we come out. Anyway, we're playing around in these gravel hills here, and they're kind of fun. You kind of scoop out the middle and you can get into it like a volcano type thing. And it's probably really stupid, and it actually is very stupid to do something like that, but we were stupid in those days. So here we are. We're standing about right here, and all of a sudden I hear over here, I see and hear somebody say, "Hey, you guys." And it was a guy standing there and walking our way with a dog, an Alsatian. Well, we didn't hang around. We were standing here. We didn't hang around. We ran and went around here, around the building, and we could hear it coming towards us. So we looked back just to see how close it was, you know, and there was nobody there. So that is a ghost story, right? Okay, well, that's just the beginning, because then we were in here and we were playing around in this one, and all of a sudden, well, yeah, it was this one, and all of a sudden, this gate, there's a gate here, and this is like 600 yards or so, and there's a gate here, like 2 football fields, and there's a gate here, and it had all these padlocks on it, like 3 or 4 padlocks and chains and all this kind of stuff, and you just couldn't get out of it or into it real quick, you'd think, without undoing all these padlocks, etc. So anyway, all of a sudden we're sitting there playing around, and we see a car coming, and so we duck down and we can see the antenna of it, and it goes by here, and then it turns around here. And we're like, oh boy, you know, and then when it turned around, we saw it. We peeked up and we saw it, and it took off here. And it went around, and we followed it. So we were running after it and stuff like that. And we were close on its tail. Well, when we came around the corner here, we figured we would probably see it, closing the gate or opening the gate, whatever. Well, there was nothing there. Okay, so that's another ghost story. How did it get through this gate? Who knows? How did it close the gate? How did it put all the padlocks on in the seconds that we were behind it? Who knows? So now we're over here, and we're trying to figure out that, and we're going, this is really strange. So we decide, oh, let's go up this way and hang out here. So we were just hanging out here and looking at this shed and stuff, and all of a sudden we hear a car come screeching by and skid to a stop right about here, just to the right of the gate. Well, in here is all forest and brush, and this was like short brush and a little hill up into this forest area and all this kind of stuff. Well, the car slid to a stop. Now this is going to start really strange, and that's just the way it goes. But anyway, so this car comes up and it stops here, and out of the car jumps 4 nuns. Yeah, 4 nuns jump out of the car, and what do? They go here up into this little hill part, and there's all this brush here and all this kind of stuff, and they start taking off their habits, their clothing, and they throw their clothing into the brush here. Well, we're watching like this, and we're looking at it at a good angle, and we're watching this happen, and we're going, this is really strange. And so they all undress and get in some other clothes or something, and they jump back in the car, and they go zooming off. And so we go running over there thinking we're going to see these clothing, and we could still see them. Well, it was about when we got here that we couldn't see the clothing anymore, and we're only talking 50 feet now. We couldn't see the clothing, and it just disappeared. So by the time we got here, there was no clothing that we saw anywhere. There was nothing, not a thing. So what I'm gonna suggest here is that what we're seeing not is our ghosts. We're seeing a different dimension, and I'm going to tell you this. We came back here the next day because I told my brother that something had happened. Well, my brother and I and my friend came here, and we parked our bikes in here, a little path going out here. And we came out here, and we were showing my brother and all that, what happened. And so we were standing here, and we were heading back this way. And all of a sudden, around the corner comes a guy with a dog. Well, he comes. My brother starts running like anything. I mean, he's like, eh. We're like, no, this guy isn't real. We're going to test this one out this time. So we stood there about here, and we just stood there. And this guy comes walking up to us, and we're like, he's not real. He's not real. He's going to disappear. Well, he wasn't more than 15 feet from us, and all of a sudden we realized, I think he's real. And so we just jumped on our bikes and took off. Now, we didn't even look back, and my brother, this is a funny story, there was a log here, and so we were heading down through this woods area, and my brother came around the corner, and he hit this log, and smack, he went down. And we came along, and we skidded to a stop, jumped over the log, and took off. But anyway, the funny thing about this is when this guy was here, and his dog, and he was coming towards us, and we looked back, and he wasn't there. The funny thing was, he was interacting with us. Now, I know people don't like to talk about this stuff or even think about this stuff, but if there are different dimensions, I believe that we cross every once in a while. I think the ghosts and things that I've seen in my life, and apparitions and things like that, are different dimensions, and they are experiencing the same thing that I am experiencing. In other words, I was a part of their or his reality, and he was a part of our reality at that second in time. And same with this car that came across and did all this, and the nuns in the car here and all that kind of stuff. That was a dimensional thing that we were experiencing. So anyway, do I say this place is haunted? I say it's haunted. Do I say there's a connection, a doorway of some sort? I would say yes, since all these things happened here. So anyway, that's one of my ghost stories, and I'll recount some others that seem to be poignant and have to do with what I'm telling you about. Let's just do a real quick one. Let me just throw this stuff over. Okay, here I am. Here's my house. I live out in the middle of just nowhere in England, and there's this old Anglo-Saxon church here. Oh, beautiful little church, house size. I could get pictures for you. Anyway, there's a pathway that comes up here and goes like this. And then there's a field here, and actually my house was over here, and there was a gate here and a gate here. Anyway, where this church is, there's all the gravestones, you know, here. and that's the gate in and all that kind of stuff. So, and this is like a little country lane. It's like 3 miles long anyway, and this is all just fields and stuff like this. And there's actually a Roman signal station over here that I just always loved to hang out in and stuff like that. And I'd find Roman keys all through this fields here. Every time the farmer would come by and plow the fields, I'd go out there and I'd find Roman keys, coins, you name it. So anyway, so that was kind of fun. Anyway, one night at 1 o'clock in the morning, I'm sitting there and I'm looking out my window, and I see somebody standing at 1 o'clock in the morning, about 1:02 or something. I see somebody standing out in the graveyard, and kind of just walking in between the gravestones and stuff like that. And I'm looking, I go, wow, it's the pastor or whatever, the preacher of the church. And I was like, let's see, 11 years old then, and so I'm watching and watching and watching, and finally I just gave up watching. I guess he walked around the building or something, or maybe he walked in, and I was just young and I didn't really think anything about it. And so anyway, next day I mentioned to my parents, I said, wow, I saw the preacher out there at 1 o'clock in the night, and I thought that was strange. And so I told them, and they were kind of shocked, and actually they told me that previous night, the night before that night, at 1 o'clock or something, the guy died. Well, I saw him, I guess after he died, standing in the graveyard there. So that was kind of interesting. And what can I say about that one? But that's, you know, that never helped my reputation, seeing things like that. All during my life I had sightings of people. I would have people standing next to people when I was a child, and they would say, somebody would say, oh, well, I did that the other day, and the person standing next to him would just tell me, no, they didn't, and would tell me what they actually did. And I would say to, it was usually my parents, I would say adopted parents, I would say, well, somebody just told me that, the guy over there just told me that you didn't do that. And that happened so many times in my life when I was a child. I could see beings just standing there and telling me stuff. Well, of course, I got abused after that because people just freaked out. My parents couldn't deal with me, I guess, and my ability to know everything, the truth, really bothered them, and it freaked out my brothers and sisters too, because I would say, you know, oh, don't go out today, to my sister or something, and she would, and she'd fall off her bike or something, and stuff like that. And I just knew things all the time. I always knew the truth because somebody in my head either would tell me. They would do that later in my life. What happened was that at first I would see people, and then after that, after a while, I don't know if I trained myself not to see them, but I wasn't seeing them later in my life. I think the abuse and all that kind of stopped all that. But anyway, I've always had this thing where in my dreams now I get the truth about people and things like that, and I also get instant premonitions of what's going on and stuff like that, and this all has to do with how I go about my business today. What I do is I just follow my brain. My mind just tells me where to go. It says, go in this forest, and I go and I just walk and walk, and all of a sudden I come across all this stuff that I'm coming across. So is it a gift? I guess it is, because I don't see other people doing that. And, well, actually, maybe there are, but I haven't really heard about them, and I haven't been looking for them or anything like that. But it's a gift, I guess, because I just keep finding things and discovering new things, and it's just been constant all my life. I don't know, have a clue what it's all about. I used to work with ghost things, you know, like cards, tarot cards and all that, and I never got into it really big because when things started happening, I realized that you're not supposed to mess with stuff like that. And I started working with wishes, and I started asking questions like the key to relativity and stuff like that, you know, big questions. And one time I was sitting there and I learned how to put myself into a trance kind of thing, and I kind of opened my mind and I said, I'd like to know the answer to relativity. Well, what happened was, for the next 2 days, I was talking non-stop equations. It was just coming out of my mouth, and I couldn't stop it. I was just spouting off equations of some sort. And so I grabbed a tape recorder, and in those days that's all we had, and a little cassette thing that I had purchased, and I started to tape what was going on. Well, I was sitting in this room, this huge room, and I was sitting by myself and spouting out all this junk, and all of a sudden I just picked up, well, I didn't pick it up, I was holding this stupid thing, and I was holding it like this, and for some reason the thing just flew out of my hands, flew across the room, and crashed on the floor and broke. And I realized at that point that maybe you're not supposed to know these things, and or at least you can wish for things, but you can't. I wasn't allowed to tape it or record it. Whatever I was getting out of the thing was what I wanted to know, was the truth. So anyway, that's how I go about my business. I'm just psychic to the max, and things just happen to me all the time. I mean all the time. I can't go outside without seeing things. I can't go to sleep without knowing things. It's just amazing. I was brought up in an abusive family. I was brought up rich, which was funny because we were jet setters and all this kind of stuff, and nobody ever found out. And so anyway, that's what I do, and that's how I got here, and stuff like that. I could tell you tons and tons and tons and tons of stuff, but it all seems to come down to what's going to happen tomorrow for me. You know, the past is the past, and so I just always look forward to what's going to happen today, and I never really know, you know. Like right now I have this urge to go out in the forest, in this one forest today. I might. There's a burning thing in my head that says I need to go out here and go out in a certain place, and for a reason. I don't know what it is, and I'll find out, and I'll do more videos and all that kind of stuff on that. I've been out there and about and doing stuff, and I've come across some funky stuff, and well, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So anyway, that's what's been going on in my life. That was a good one, though. To me, it's like this guy was interacting with me, and we were interacting with it, but it was in a dimensional thing. We crossed in dimensions. He was doing what he was doing, we were doing what we were doing, but we saw each other and actually didn't talk to each other, but he was talking to us. And this car was a freaky thing, because how did it get out of this gate? And what the heck was a car speeding to a stop here, and nuns getting out and undressing and throwing their clothes on the brush? And when we're walking towards it, all of a sudden it just faded away, and there was nothing. So that's always a fun one. Okay, I'm going to end here because I'm doing a long super one here. I'll try to put this down in not high definition so you can download it and all that kind of stuff, and easier. Alright, I'm out of here.